Hey dudes, welcome to Splat from the Past, the only 80s themed horror and sci-fi show where things can get totally radical. Now today, I will be welcoming a great musician who you all remember from The Lost Boys. He played on stage at Santa Cruz in that movie. Tim Cappello. He was also Tina Turner's sax player. And I'm having him on the show today to talk about his amazing career in music, working with people like Tina Turner and Ringo Starr and Eric Carmen and so many people in the business, and ask him what his memories of making The Lost Boys were. And it's going to be pretty great. So yeah, here is my interview with Timmy Cappello. Hey, Tim.
Hey, Tommy, how you doing, man?
I'm good. How are you, sir?
Good.
Great. It's such an honor. Thank you for taking the time today.
All right, my pleasure.
So, going back in time, did you fall in love with music at an early age?
Oh, yeah, there was no doubt as to what I was going to do. My father was a trumpet player and a conductor, and he owned a music school. And I used to just go down there from my earliest recollections. My earliest memories are of being down there and just banging on pianos and hitting the drums and trying to play all the different instruments. It was like a kid in a candy store, and I just loved it.
Was sax your first instrument?
No. The drums and the cello were my first two instruments.
Wow.
And then that was about, I would say 4. And then at about 11, I started picking out things on the piano. And I would learn the chords to different songs that were on the radio. I'd bring the radio down to where the piano was and figure out what made them tick. So that led to me playing piano and keyboards. And then I really just fell, about 14, I just fell in love with jazz and soul and R&B music. And at that time, that was if you were into those kinds of music, what you pretty much aspired to was to play the sax, because that was everybody wanted to be, or at least I did, to be Charlie Parker or Lester Young, or those guys were just so hip to me. They were the epitome of hip. So I just loved it. So that and Joe Henderson and it was a popular instrument back then in music. And this is, I'm talking about the late 60s.
Yeah.
It was also a really popular instrument. It was kind of like, it was cool. It was sexy. It was, you could make it scream. You could make it whisper. It was so much like the human voice that I really got hooked on it. And I taught myself for a little while, and then I got a proper teacher, and that's when I went to college and the New England Conservatory of Music up in Boston, and because he taught there, and that's when I really started playing, with other people and playing a lot of jazz and stuff like that. But then a friend, there was a guy that I was really in love with, his a piano player. I just loved his music ever since I was a little kid. And I heard that he was teaching back down in New York, which is where I'm from. And so I just left the school to study with him privately, because I thought, well, why not just go right to the source of what I really love? So that was really cool. And I studied with him. His name was Lenny Tristano. And I studied with him till I was just on the road too much to study anymore. I wish I could have studied more.
Yeah.
Because he had a lifetime of things to teach me. But I just kept going on the road, and I had to stop. I had to make a living.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So how many instruments overall do you play?
You know, sax is my main instrument.
Of course.
And then I would say after that, what I play next best. As a matter of fact, a lot of people really know me as a keyboard player from when I was a kid, because I used to be the keyboard player in the band, not the sax player. So a lot of people that I still play with are like, "Oh, come on, bring your keyboard. I wanna relive the old days." So that's my second instrument, and then I play guitar. I practice every day on both nylon string, sort of Brazilian guitar, and sort of heavy rock guitar. I play wind synthesizer, which, if you listen to my record, all of the solos on "Take Me to the River" and on the guitar on "Tequila" are all played on a wind synthesizer. Mm-hmm. And so that takes some practice. I have to practice that a lot. I also, on one of the songs, Maybelline, I play blues harp. Tina Turner had a song that had harmonica in it called "Steamy Windows." And when they sent me the thing, I realized that no one else was going to have their hands free in the band to play. So I knew that in about a month, I better learn how to play blues harp. So it stuck with me, and I really still enjoy playing it. I have a set of drums that I love to play, both electronic kit and a regular kit, and I find that really enjoyable. I just go down with like a radio station of some soul or funk, and I just put my headphones on and play the drums along with the tunes on the radio. You know, some nice James Brown or something like that had really great drum parts. And I guess that's it.
Wow, so you're a multi-instrumentalist.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's what they got me billed as on Wikipedia. But if you were a saxophone player in the 70s or 80s, which is when I was touring, mm-hmm. I mean, I toured through the 90s as well with Tina, but that was really just her and Ringo that I did then. Mm-hmm. You can't play saxophone on every song. It'll sound stupid. You know, you can only play little horn parts here and there, or a solo. Maybe one out of every 3 or 4 songs might have a solo in those days. So you've got to be able to contribute to the band, and then not just stand there like a dork, you know, with nothing to do. So that's how I learned to play those things out of necessity too. I was glad that I was like, in other words, I usually just used to play electronic percussion with Tina and Ringo, but then Tina wanted to do like an unplugged kind of thing, and she had, you know, of course, she had that big hit with a remake of "Let's Stay Together," mm-hmm. and that started out with with conga drums. And so they just said, okay, here's a conga drum. We'll bring it to all of your hotel rooms. Learn how to play it in 2 weeks to get a decent sound out of it. And so you just have to do it. Mm-hmm. You know, and I'm glad, because I still play it sometimes. And really enjoy playing like the real conga. Although it does beat the crap out of your hands. It's really a fun it's really a fun thing to do. You know, if somebody brings a pair of congas and they want to play something else, I go over and sneak in some time on the congas.
Yeah.
So that's just the way it goes. You know, it's all that stuff. In the beginning, it was like I couldn't make up my mind. I loved the piano because that's how you learned about harmony.
Mm-hmm.
And then I didn't love the cello. I wasn't a real big fan of classical music when I was a kid. I was a real jazzer and rock and roller. So I gave up the cello, but the drums, I always kept, kept up with the drums. And the only problem with that is that I'm left-handed. So my father brought me my first set of drums, maybe when I was, 10 or so, and under the Christmas tree. And when I sat down on them, he set them up correctly for a regular right-handed person. But I don't know how that happened, but I just took everything and switched it. I took the hi-hat, put it over on the right side. I took the tom-tom, put it over on the left side, switched out all the cymbals, and I was only, 10 years old. I had no idea why I would do it that way, but I did, and because I guess most left-handed people have to learn how to do some things with your right hand. Mm-hmm. It's not a kind world to lefties sometimes, but I would play a lot more on gigs, more drums. But I'm left-handed, so drummers get really pissed off if you try to.
Yeah.
They're away getting some coffee, and you want to play, and you switch their kit around. They are not happy. So I learned long ago not to do that to anybody.
Yeah.
But I love to say, it's almost like at the end of the day, like after my wife and I had dinner and put the dishes away and done everything, I'll say, geez, I'm just going to take a half hour or 45 minutes and just go down and beat the hell out of the drums, Mm-hmm. Just so much fun. It really is the main sort of the bedrock instrument, because the only thing you really have to do on the drums to be a good drummer is to figure out how to get a really good pocket, right? How to get a really great groove. It just feels right. You're not rushing. You're not laying back too much. You're not hitting things too hard, too soft. You just have that nice pocket. And that pocket serves you really well on any other instrument you're going to play. If you play anything, even if you're playing like lead guitar and you're all over the place and you're playing a million notes, if it doesn't have a pocket, you're dead in the water.
Yeah.
So that's what drums is really fun for. It just makes you get back into that, like, what's music so great for? It's so great because it makes you move, right? And that's mostly the pocket. That's mostly the groove of the song that makes you want to move. So, and that's what I think music is the best for.
Yeah, hitting those right notes and knowing why those notes need to be played.
That's exactly right. And at exactly the right time. It's like when I hear a drummer, and usually there are people who like to play very simply. When I hear somebody just lay down a great, like, I'll tell you, this was amazing to me. In 1992, mm-hmm. I got my first job playing with Ringo Starr's All-Star Band. Mm-hmm. So there were all these great musicians there, and I was like the new kid, and it was an incredible thing, and I was so nervous. But I had a lot of keyboards and mixers and all kinds of effects and all kinds of crap that I had to get together. So I was busily doing all that. And Ringo's technician set up his drums. We were all getting ready for our first day. Mm-hmm. and I was facing away from Ringo, and he just went boom, cha, boom, boom, cha, boom, cha, boom, boom, cha. And something about the way that he plays that, the simplest of beats, right?
Right.
Something about the way that he plays the drums. He's got this kind of roping feeling to his playing. And when I heard it, I went, oh my God, and I spun around and I went, oh my God, that's the Beatles. Like, people tend to think of Ringo as maybe being a lucky guy, you know, he didn't write too many songs and he didn't have the great voice and all that stuff. But the Beatles would not have been the Beatles without him.
Right.
If they had some, like, monster technician, fantastic, you know, incredible player like Bernard Purdy or one of these great session musicians, if that's who was behind the drums, the band would not have been that band. And I was shocked. It just hit me like a lightning bolt that how much he had to do with the sound of the group.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree. I'm a big Beatles fan.
Yeah. And, you know, I really went into it thinking, oh, well, Ringo Starr, you know, there's better drummers out there. And he'll be the first to say that to you. But it's like nobody can beat him. You know, like his son, Zach, was playing on the first tour that I did. And now he plays with the Who. Right? He's been with them for ages now. And he's one of those guys. He's funky as a monster. He's got chops like you would not believe. He is so tight. His groove is so funky and so tight that it's like, you know, it's mesmerizing how good he is. But nobody is Ringo. Nobody. You know, like, that's why that band, a big reason why that band sounds the way it does.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, that was an interesting inspiration to me because I'm not, when I go, if I was to go to a gig and the drummer has like 2 bass drums and 1 million tom-toms and, you know, I say, oh boy, I'm in trouble. You know?
Yeah.
It's just somebody who's going to be soloing all night instead of focusing on that magic that you get when everybody is in sync so beautifully, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, I was reading that you did some touring with Eric Carmen, but you also did touring with Billy Crystal.
Yes. Yeah. Billy was my first. Actually second. There was a guy that I was playing with that a friend of mine, a drummer named Jerry Morata, who is a pretty renowned drummer. I happened to go to school with him and his brother, so I was really lucky. They really got me so many gigs, really most of my gigs. Mm-hmm. And I was at school, you know, I was up in Boston at the conservatory, and he said, well, I don't want to make your life difficult for you, but if you want to come down to New York, I've got a pretty good gig. This guy's a good singer, and he was sort of a James Taylor type of guy, you know, finger-picking, acoustic guitar, but he had a beautiful voice and wrote some nice songs in that, which is that's a style of music I also really love. I love Joni Mitchell. I love James Taylor. I love Stephen Bishop. And so I figured, wow, now's the time to go because I've got a gig, you know, when I get there.
Yeah.
And so I went down and got the gig with this guy, and it was fun and everything. And then we were playing out on Long Island, and Billy Crystal was just getting started. He was only maybe 25 years old or something, and I was 19.
Yeah.
And one night he just said, "Who's the piano player?" And I went, "Me." And he said, "Oh, you wanna come up and play some little skits with me, and just whatever comes into your mind, just do it." And I said, "Sure." And I asked the guy if that was okay, and the guy I was playing with, he said, "Sure, no problem." So I went and did it, and Billy liked what I did, and I played with him for 5 years till he got the job on Soap, and he moved out to L.A.
Wow.
And that was so much fun. It really was. It was so much fun. He's just a brilliant guy, and a very, I don't know if you know a lot of comics.
I do.
You do?
Yeah.
When they're famous, especially, they can really be a pain in the butt.
Yes.
They're very, very competitive.
Yep.
And you're sitting around a table with these people, geez, the testosterone is flying around the room.
Yeah.
And they're so insecure, and he was just none of those things. He was none of those things. He's a sweet man. He's super funny, but never really in that style of putting people down or any of that stuff.
Yeah.
So it was a wonderful, wonderful 5 years. And of course, it would just be him and me in the car. We'd be driving up to Toronto or driving down to DC or something, and I'd just be with this brilliant mind for all that time. And he just had me underneath the seat, just convulsing in laughter. So that was something not too many musicians get to have.
He's a very funny guy. And wow, Stephen Bishop, I never hear that name these days.
I love him so much. I think he's got that gorgeous, gorgeous tenor voice. And there's just something about the way that he writes melodies and he writes his harmony that I just find, On and On. It was a great song, it was a hit song and all that. And then he had others. He had the Tootsie thing and all that. But on his records, especially the first two records, I just thought that there were songs that nobody knows that were absolutely beyond. They weren't meant to be hit songs. They were just really from his heart. And
yeah.
I just still think that they're fantastic. Now, the other side of the coin is that I'm still a huge Captain Beefheart fan.
Oh, love Captain Beefheart.
Do you?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was all growing up. That was my guy. I used to take our band's PA speakers, these big speakers that were taller than me when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And I would hook them up to my record player, and I would play Trout Mask Replica as loud as I could.
Love that.
To try to turn on the neighborhood. And if I was going into the shower while I was doing it, somebody would call the cops, and the cops would just come in and turn it down and leave. Knock. It just got to be such a constant thing that the cops would just come in. They knew where it was coming from. They turned it down, and that was that.
Yeah, because they probably heard Old Fart at Play.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Trout Mask Replica and Lick My Decals Off, I just think are
masterpieces.
Just he just reinvented music. He just invented it from the bottom up. And those guys that rehearsed 12, 14 hours a day, getting that stuff perfect. They actually say that Trout Mask Replica, the band's part of it, the music of it, which is so incredibly complex.
Yeah.
That it was done. They literally did pretty much everything in one take. So they literally made a double album
Yeah.
One 4-hour session.
Wow.
That's incredible. And then he took another couple of weeks to fit all the poetry on top. But they literally just could play everything just once through, and that was it. It'll never be done again because it was just, no one will ever try anything that, you know. I mean, there's another way to approach very complex music, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is that you understand it and you write it out and you write everybody's parts out and you get people who are incredible readers and great players. So, you know, maybe, you know, people that play complex music and are really schooled composers like Maria Schneider. She's fantastic. And actually my favorite is a guy named Vince Mendoza. Mm-hmm. I just think he's just one of the great, but you know, he's got John Scofield playing guitar and he's got Will Lee playing bass. And these guys are probably just reading this stuff, you know, once or twice down and getting it perfect.
Yeah.
But in terms of, you know, Beefheart used to plunk out these melodies and stuff for the guitars to do on a piano. And of course, when you're playing piano, you've got 10 fingers, but when you're playing guitar, you've really only got 4. Because your thumb's behind, your left thumb is behind the neck. So what they did, those parts were so difficult, and they weren't written on the guitar.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, all of the drum parts and craziness, how they could play all that stuff. One guy's in 3 and the other guy's in 7 and the other guy, and they all merge and cycle around. It's absolutely incredible. So that's interesting. You're a fan of his too, huh?
Oh yeah, I mean, I love, you know, Frank Zappa and that whole camp of, you know, underground experimental guys. I mean, they were just way ahead of their time and they pioneered the field.
Absolutely, I agree 100%. I agree 100%. And you know, I guess why I really feel Beefheart is special among those people, because you know, there are progressive rock players, right? The Peter Gabriel album that I played on.
Yeah.
Robert Fripp produced it.
Right.
And, you know, King Crimson and all the progressive rock guys, they are great players and they know what they're doing, but they didn't reinvent music, right? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? They're just...
Yeah.
You know, fusion type players who have a lot of chops and it's very impressive, and John McLaughlin and all those guys. It's wonderful. I mean, you know, even like you say, Zappa, you know, he wrote, a friend of mine played on Broadway the Hard Way.
Yeah.
And we were going to a gig one time, and he told me that Zappa came up to him and said, "I heard you play a lot of instruments." This is a guy named Tom Malone, or Bones Malone. He was. Oh
yeah, the Blues Brothers.
Blues Brothers band, yeah.
Yeah.
But he was also David Letterman. He did all the charts and wrote out all the parts for everybody. And he plays. You know, he's known as a trombone player, but he plays great sax, great trumpet. And Zappa just came up to him and said, "Would you write out a list of everything that you play for me?" And he said the next day, this was after the rehearsal at night, the next morning when they came in, Zappa had written out parts for every single one of his instruments.
Wow.
13.
That's crazy.
That is crazy, right?
Right.
He needed people that were, you know, I mean, it is true that, you know, the Beefheart stuff now that, like, people have had time to, like, study it and all that stuff, that it's not quite as crazy as it seemed at the time. Mm-hmm. You know, because, right, Beefheart's band, and then, people that are huge fans of tribute bands and stuff like that, they've really got that stuff down. They've got Trout Mask and Lick My Decals Off down to a T, and to them, they grew up on it, right?
Right.
Yeah. So that's interesting. We're both on the same wavelength with all the crazy people in life.
Oh yeah.
Musical frontiersmen.
Yeah, I love music as much as I love movies. It's just very personal and spiritual for me.
Oh, cool. Do you study soundtracks as well, or is it mostly the songs from movies that get you most?
I love all of it, yeah. But soundtracks, yeah, I'm very fascinated by them.
And who are some of your favorite soundtrack composers?
Love John Williams.
Yep. That's not to love.
Oh, yeah. Elmer Bernstein.
Oh, wow, yeah. I see.
Yeah, the classics. Yeah. Classics.
You know what I thought? You know what movie I was watching the other day that I thought, oh, that was amazing?
What?
Was how they used the original score, but I think they redid it, but they used the original score from Cape Fear.
Oh.
And I think, I'm probably wrong about this, but I think that it was one of the Bernstein brothers.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many of those guys, right?
Yeah.
And it was, well, I don't think it was Elmer, but I can't remember which one it was. But at any rate, or maybe it could have been one of the Newmans, right? That Randy Newman is like a scion of a bunch of great composers, his uncles and his dad and grandfather and everything like that. But it was one of those guys. I think it was a Bernstein, though. And it just fit so beautifully into the new version of the movie. I was fascinated. I don't think anybody's ever done that before. I'm not sure, but it really was magnificent because it was so lush. You just never could get a modern composer to write like that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So how did you begin performing with Tina Turner?
Well, again, these guys that I was telling you about, the Murata brothers, drummers, the older brother is named Rick, and he played with Steely Dan, and he played with Aretha Franklin and James Taylor, and just Linda Ronstadt. He was just the guy that you called in L.A. or New York, and one of the top session drummers. And he just Tina's manager had asked him, because he was all hooked up all over L.A. and everything, and was hanging with her manager. Mm-hmm. He said, we need a keyboard player and we need a sax player. He said, oh, I know somebody that does both. You could save yourself some money.
Yeah.
And that's how I got the gig, because he was so well respected that they figured, well, if he said he was good, so I wasn't competing against anybody at all. I remember that when I went to, I had never played with her before. I had just met her. Mm-hmm. And she said, at one point she got somebody to call me and say, learn this song, and this song, and we're going to go do a gig, and you'll play from off stage. So at the time, What's Love Got to Do With It hadn't quite hit. So she was doing McDonald's conventions. And I believe that's the first gig that I played with her, was at McDonald's conventions. There were skits, people were dressed up like French fries. It was really kind of embarrassing.
Yeah.
And it wasn't anything that I was thinking was going to be a big deal.
Yeah.
I mean, I loved her. I loved her when I was a kid, watching that band on Ed Sullivan or on any of the rock and roll shows, American Bandstand. I just thought they were so incredible, and she was so incredible that I would have played with her if she was doing McDonald's conventions for the rest of her life. But it was just one of those sort of kismet type of things where after about 6 months, she did all of her commitments. She fulfilled all of her commitments on all these small little gigs. She didn't, which I thought I admired her for. She didn't go back on her word or break her contracts or anything.
Mm-hmm.
But in the meantime, if there was time, we'd be in Madison Square Garden, or we'd be, headlining at the Forum in L.A. or the Greek. And it was so weird to be doing both of those things at one time. We'd be doing tiny little casinos up in North Dakota, and then go because it was, we still had a commitment, and then going to play some enormous coliseum somewhere like on Thursday, and then you're back to the McDonald's conventions on Tuesday. It was a funny little 6 months there.
Mm-hmm.
It was very confusing. So, that was a funny thing. Just to be able to, I never had that before or since, riding a wave like that. Although I have to say, when I go out, I'm going to be touring this summer,
mm-hmm.
and when I go out and play a gig, Tina was such a huge part of my life for so long. When you're out on the road with people, the band, and it's your whole life. You don't have any other life besides the plane and the bus and the hotel room and the gig. That's your whole life. So 15 years, that was huge. But this Lost Boys thing was, only took about 2 or 3 hours.
Yeah.
And so I didn't think much of it. And yet, when I go out and I do a convention or a gig, and I have a little meet and greet or whatever, I don't, nobody's getting pictures of me and Tina. Nobody really remembers that. It's just that my little 12 seconds in the Lost Boys that keeps people coming out to see me.
Yeah, my mom saw you guys in 1997 at the Shoreline Amphitheater in Mountain View, California, and she said it was one of the best concerts she'd ever been to. I mean, the energy was just extraordinary.
Oh yeah, I don't want to say when she turned it on, because she always turned it on.
Yeah.
There were some times when it was more of a struggle than other times, just like anybody would have, days when you're into it more than other times. But she really was extraordinary. Sometimes it was hard to play. You'd just be so riveted at what she could do. Just by listening to her. Sometimes it was hard to keep your stuff together.
Yeah.
Because knowing that she was, dancing in those 6-inch heels, and at the same time just singing her butt off. And she's remarkable, absolutely.
She's amazing.
So lucky that I got that chance.
She's an amazing woman. She's been through an awful lot. I mean, she made a comeback at an age when most women in rock are finished,
That's right. She was in her mid-40s by then. That's when she really started. She started in her mid-40s.
I know.
All that other stuff, that wasn't nearly as big as she became. Mostly due to I don't think she would have been as big if it hadn't been for MTV.
Yeah. MTV really pushed it. Yeah.
That was everything to kids at that point in the 80s, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and she got such great, she got such great play on MTV. They were playing her every 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So she was, for those 3 or 4 years or whatever, she was really something on there. So much of what I got, in terms of doing TV shows or doing films or stuff like that as an actor, I got because I was standing behind her.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only reason people would go, oh yeah, let's get that crazy guy back there and have him be a drug dealer or something like that.
Yeah. So how did
and it still happens today. You know what I mean? The whole gunship thing, and it's still you still have people that love that era, and I can see it. I understand it.
Yeah, it was a great era.
Yeah.
So how did you come to singing The Calls I Still Believe for the Lost Boys?
I was auditioning for a part in another movie.
Mm-hmm.
And while I was there, just this guy I never met just walked in, and he said, "Oh, you're Tina Turner, aren't you? Come with me. Somebody that wants to meet you."
Uh-huh.
And he just walked me into Joel Schumacher's office, and Joel went, "You want to sing a song in a movie?" And I went, "Sure." And he went, "Okay, that's it." We shook hands on it, and that was it. It was that, like, just sort of coincidental. It didn't, it wasn't anything I tried to get or heard about and tried to politic my way into it or anything, where it was just so simple. Oh, you want to sing a song? Because the Call, ultimately the Call was a Christian band. Now I'm making this up, but I know that they were a Christian band, and my guess is because they turned it down, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand why someone would turn down like a big movie.
Yeah.
Everybody knew it was going to be a big movie. So why anybody would do that, I have absolutely no idea, except for the fact that maybe they thought there was an inconsistency between their beliefs and a movie about vampires.
Yeah.
So to a certain extent, I'm almost surprised that they let them use the song. But they did, and I'm really glad about that, because I love that song still. I really think it's a wonderful prayer from really down deep inside someone. And usually, if you sing a song in a movie, I've done other things like that where I've written songs for movies or whatever, and they just tend to be about as shallow as you can do, because somebody's saying, "Oh, well, the movie's about this," so you try to put stuff in the song that's about what the movie's about, or if they tell you what it's supposed to be like. But it's really like a thing for hire, Whereas if you're just writing a song because you want to write a song, it's going to be a little deeper. It's going to be more yourself. So for the Lost Boys, they actually did let me write a song. But the best thing that ever happened to me was that they rejected that song. Because, I wouldn't be talking to you right now at all if it hadn't been for, Michael Bean's incredible songwriting.
Yeah, I listened to the Calls version last night for the first time, and their version has more of an alternative post-punk new wave pop vibe to it, whereas your version is much more mid to late 80s AOR with an ominous, seductive beat.
Yeah, that's a great way to describe it.
Yeah. What are your memories of filming that night in Santa Cruz?
How short it was. I think we might have done 2 or 3 takes, and there was the stuff of the band, and then there that whole thing. They had to weave it in there, so we had to be there for those scenes too, just to be in the background. But we couldn't start till the sun went down, of course.
Yeah.
And literally, I think by like 11 o'clock, we were having a party in Corey Haim's room. We were already off the set, back, you know, and as I'm sure you know, the one thing that anybody knows that's ever been on a set, a TV set or a film set, it takes 10 times longer than you think it's going to be.
Yeah.
It's so boring.
Yeah.
And it's so, you know, because if somebody's good, especially, they want everything to be perfect, so the lighting and the staging and the, you know, just so much is involved. And this one just had, there was just nothing. Those were actually just like kids, you know, coming to hear a concert, coming to see, you know, something. They were, you know, they weren't like from, you know, SAG or the Extras Union or anything like that.
Yeah.
They were just kids that went there. They went to that place every night.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, that's what seems kind of authentic about it. You know, I think some people have said stuff like, geez, headbanging to saxophone, that seems really weird. And it does, but it's just like they were just really getting into it. You know, Santa Cruz, I'm going to play there on my tour, and I'm so excited that I'm going to play there again. I haven't played there in 32 years.
Wow. I love Santa Cruz. Yeah, I'm from the Bay Area. I used to go to Santa Cruz every summer for the free concerts and stuff.
Sure, absolutely.
Did you like?
Well, I'm playing at a place called the Blue Lagoon.
Oh yeah, I know that place.
Yeah. So I'm very excited about it.
That's awesome. Did you like the movie?
Did I like the movie The Lost Boys?
Yeah.
Is that what you said? Yeah, of course. I thought it was. That's not really my genre.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when my wife and I settle down to watch a movie, we usually will watch a documentary or we'll watch a drama or I like things that make me cry.
Yeah.
You know, like oh man, I don't know why I'd never seen it before, but it was just happened. You know, it was on TV, and we saw I Am Sam.
Oh yeah, good movie.
And to me, that's my basic movie experience. Is a drama that just has me losing like a half a pound of tears. You know.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what I like. So, but I didn't feel like, and I'm kind of squeamish when it comes to horror. But I thought it was so funny, and I thought it had so much to it. It didn't seem like, you know, like just horror for horror's sake, or, you know, it was scary, but I just felt like it had this wonderful balance of the characters and the love story and the you know, the crazy stuff, you know, flying around and hanging off the bridge and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I just thought it was great. I thought that Corey Haim just brought so much to it. He just cracked me up.
Oh yeah, it's a hilarious movie. Yeah.
It's a funny movie.
Mm-hmm. And you did some acting in the late '80s in movies and TV, like Miami Vice, The Equalizer, Hearts of Fire. I was curious. You did Tap. Did you get to talk to Sammy Davis Jr. in that?
Oh, sure. Sammy was he would hold. First of all, every morning that I came on set, Sammy would grab my ass and say, "Hey, how you doing there today? You got some nice build on you there, kid." And it wasn't like flirting or anything. He was just that kind of guy.
Yeah.
You know, he was just he was just like an extremely friendly guy. And that was what he would do. And he would talk to you just like you were his equal. He would hold court, of course, all these young tap dancers. And he would, instead of like going to lunch, he would just sort of hold court to all these young people and just tell them stories. And, you know, it wasn't just Sammy, too, right? Because these guys were really friends. Sam Man Sims, Jimmy Slide, all the other guys, all the other great tap dancers, they were, you know, they weren't kidding. Like that great scene in that movie where they're doing the you know, they're going to have a tap off.
Yeah.
And everybody's going to strut their stuff, and everybody's going to show what they can do. I had to go to that and just stand around and watch. I usually don't go to scenes that I'm not in, but it was just an amazing, amazing thing to see. They were the most generous and the funniest. Oh my God, that, you know, because they were the jazz musicians of dancing.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And so that's the way that they kind of thought about everything. And I think it's true. And that was Sammy's last movie, and I am so glad I got a chance to hang with him a little bit. He's such a beautiful man.
Yeah, he was the man. Just a great dancer, great performer, great everything.
Great everything, right?
Yeah, everything he did, just he turned to gold.
Yep, you're right. You're right. And you know, led an extraordinary life. Oh my God. You know what I mean? Like going up against the mores of the time and trying to be himself in a world that wanted him to be, you know,
something else.
Stephen Fetchit or something, you know.
Yeah.
Who knows what people were thinking back then. But I mean, he was right so tough. You know, that's why he only had one eye. I mean, can you imagine?
Mm-hmm.
He really had to give up his eye.
Yeah.
To try to be who he was.
Yeah, battled racism, battled drug use. I mean, he just had an incredible life, that guy.
Yep, absolutely. And but like I said, the sweetest, nicest, like, because he went through all that, he really came out of it as such a special person. You know, not just the genius that he was, but just, I mean, he seemed to me, and I thought that this was true. Didn't matter who anybody was. He could just strike up a conversation with anybody and meet them on their, you know, in their world.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was, I mean, you know, and there they were all together. And, you know, nobody really thinks about that movie too much anymore. And, you know, I get about $3.55 every 4 months from TAP. You know, it was not a very successful movie, but I thought it was just a great movie.
Yeah, I do too. I like it a lot. Yeah. I was curious. Really quickly. So you're touring this summer, and last year you recorded your first ever solo album, Blood on the Reed. What made you take so long to record a solo album, and what does the title stem from?
When everything was happening in the late 80s, mm-hmm. This guy that I told you about was a music publisher, the guy that introduced me to Joel Schumacher. He also introduced me to Gregory Hines. And he was my music publisher, and he thought that I could be a good songwriter, and so they used to have what they called publishing deals in those days, where a publishing company, say Warner Brothers Music, would hire you on for 2 years, and they would basically pay you to just stay home and write, so that you could make a living and, you know, not live extravagantly, but just, and that's what I did. And I always felt, like I said, like I really love like James Taylor, and I love Stephen Bishop, and I love all these sort of, I love this soft music, and it's different when you're writing songs than when you're just singing them or playing on them, right?
Right.
So, you know, in other words, if somebody comes to me and says, "Oh, I'd like you to play a sax solo on my record," I'll send it to you. You do it at your house and send it back to me. I don't even ask them what kind of music it is. You know, it's just a way for me, like a plumber, to ply my trade and, you know, make some money and hopefully play on something that's good and that's fun and that I get a different perspective on music. But basically, you know, it's just a way to make some dollars and keep going, pay the rent. So, but when it comes down to actually writing a song and singing it and playing it, I just felt like I had to do exactly what I wanted to do. Like, in other words, I think that Blood on the Reed is a good album that you would think, oh, that guy from the Lost Boys, yeah, that sort of sounds like what he does. And that's why I only wrote 2 songs on the record, because I wanted them to be songs that people knew that I loved to play live, and I wanted people to dance, and I wanted people to have a good time. But when I was writing songs, for some reason, I couldn't, it had to be like the deepest, most from the heart thing that I could think of. And it seemed like the better I got at that, the more people in the business didn't like it. They would say something like, "Oh, this is a little too jazzy," or "This is a little too much like film music." You know, they'd say that. They'd use those as criticism.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't divorce myself from it. I just didn't want to put out a record that where you take like the top 10 songs that are out at the time and you try to copy them so that you can, you know, you use the synthesizers that you're using, you use the drum beats that they're using, and you just mix it up a little bit so that you don't get sued. I mean, I think that's a lot of the way that people write popular music. You know, it's still the way people do it now, right?
Right.
You know, Avicii had that song where he mixed country music and dance music, and then right after that, you had the one with Pitbull.
Yeah.
Right? What was that called? Timber.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just the way it goes. Oh, country and dance. Okay, let's do one of those. That's popular now. And I just felt really not comfortable with that.
Yeah.
You know, it could have been really easy to do. But now I'm doing it really just for people, and so that I can go out and play and have a good time and know that there's a really good beat there and that there's songs. I like to take songs and twist them around and make them my own, you know, like Highway 61 or something, some song I loved as a kid and loved to play when I perform, and to just do something different with it. And so that, to me, I feel like I could never have done anything like that in the 80s. I just never could have. I just didn't. I didn't, you know, I wasn't divorced enough from it. Now I'm just so happy to be out there playing in front of people And so the title, Blood on the Reed, is really like, if you're really playing that kind of music, which is really pretty hard rock, I kind of call it like it's sort of very heavy soul. Yeah. And so when you're playing that kind of music and you're sort of playing lots of high notes and screaming through the horn and really getting into that whole thing, there's often you'll finish a couple of tunes and a session and you'll find that, your lip is cut.
Yeah.
So you literally bleed when you play that kind of music sometimes.
Yeah.
And there was definitely more than a few drops shed on that album because I really wanted to give everything I can. And I'm not a person that plays with, like, I don't think I could ever be like in the pit of a Broadway show. It's just not my way. I prefer to play wrong and play and sing the way that I like to, and not worry whether it's correct or not. You know what I mean? Like if somebody was as I said, in the pit of a Broadway show, their technique would be very laid back. You know what I mean? They would just be people that would never give it too much. So if somebody was a singer singing backup, they would never over-sing and get hoarse. I don't care if I get hoarse. I don't care if my lip bleeds. So that's what and of course, it's a little nod. Bob Dylan's one of my favorite songwriters too. So
me too.
It's a little nod to Blood on the Tracks too.
Nice. That's great that you maintain your artistic integrity and stuff. And fans can find out your touring schedule on your Facebook page.
Yes. All of the except for all of the. I'm starting on the 12th of July, and I'm ending at a convention in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, on like August 30th or 31st or something like that. Just the end of August, beginning of September, that weekend. But I'm playing. I'm going all the way across from New York to Seattle, then down to LA, and across to Vegas, and through Texas and Atlanta, and then back up to home. So if anybody just says, Google's my name, Facebook will come up as one of the first things. And I'm gonna, if anything changes, and something did, they added another show where did they add another show? I'm a little bit. I've never booked a tour before, so I'm a little. But one of the shows we sold out so quick that we booked another one, and then I didn't think I was gonna have a show in Boise, Idaho. Mm-hmm. But it turns out that somebody called me and said they wanted to. So there's a show. There's a show in Boise on. I'm sorry, you can cut this bit out. It's gonna be on Saturday, August 3rd. That's not up on the website, but I'll be in Boise at a club called the Shredder.
Nice.
And I think maybe even the next day I'll be have a meet and greet at a record store in Boise. So, it's funny. I didn't think. Everybody always told me, "Oh no, you can't book a show. You can't book a tour by yourself." Yeah. And you need an agent. And I just said, "Oh, the heck with it." So I went on this website, and it showed all the different clubs and what kind of music they play. And I just sent out emails to everybody, and it seemed like every city, everybody was smiling, saying, "Oh, yeah, that'd be great." So I'm extremely excited. This is a one-man show.
Yeah.
And I use film I use a lot of technology to do to make it kind of seamless, so that I'm not too, my head's not buried in the laptop.
Yeah.
And so I can relate to people, and I can run around and have fun and dance with people and play drum solos, and so I'm very excited about it. I don't know. I always found being on the road to be kind of. I always found it to be tough.
Mm-hmm.
Being away and all that stuff, living out of a suitcase. But for once, I'm doing it for myself, and even if I only do it this one time, I think I'm going to have a ball.
Oh, that is extraordinary. And what about convention appearances?
Yes. Oh, yes. I will be. It was funny. I was trying to look up that date, and I saw that a guy was. I will be at the All-Star Comic-Con,
Mm-hmm.
and that's just outside of D.C., and that's coming up soon. That's coming up next month. And I've never been down to D.C. In a convention, so I'm looking forward to meeting new people. And for the first time at a convention, I will actually be playing my full set.
Oh,
Playing
great.
the full set of material. And it's called the All-Star Comic-Con, and it's in Virginia, just outside, and it is on. Thank you very much for letting me plug this. I appreciate it. It's the All-Star Comic-Con at the Sheraton Hotel in Tyson's Corner, Virginia, June 8th and 9th.
June 8th and 9th.
So that's coming right up.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I'm ending my tour with a convention, as I said, in Gettysburg on the 30th, 31st, and September 1st. So August 30th, 31st, and September 1st. So if anybody lives in Pennsylvania, come on over. Say hi.
Yeah, when I saw you 3 years ago at Son of Monster Palooza in Burbank,
I remember you.
Yeah.
Of course.
When I saw you at the after party doing I Still Believe, you were the saving grace because that after party was lame.
Well, you know what? I got to tell you, I'm spilling the beans. But a lot of times, I'm just not a party guy at all.
Yeah.
So when somebody says, oh, yeah, we got free booze and we got a great party and everybody's going to be going crazy, I know that's the time to slip away quietly, go back to your room. You know what I mean? Take a bath and go to bed. Because, I do remember that. That was a great show.
Yeah.
But I was always so happy that I could do that early in the evening, and then my wife and I could go grab a burger somewhere and, just chill out and be quiet after talking to so many people. I mean, I love it, but wow, the next day, especially on a Saturday, right?
Yeah.
Talking to people for like 8 hours, and I always get so scared because after 8 hours of talking and 5 hours of talking the night before, it's just the worst time you could ever try to sing.
Yeah.
And so I'm always like, please, Lord, if you'll just get me through this one song, I'll figure out some way to pay you back. But you know what? It's funny. I always get I kind of have this little anxiety condition. I get very anxious about stuff before it happens, and I'm always like, oh God, what if I mess up? What if I mess up? I'm not a very confident person. But when I get out there, it's so much fun that I totally forget to be frightened.
Oh, that's great. And I hope I see you again, Tim, and I hope I see one of your shows one of these days.
Cool, man. Me too. If you do, come by and say hi, would you?
I sure will. This was such an honor, and I really enjoyed this. Thank you so much, sir.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure.
Yes, you have yourself a great day.
Thanks. You too. And I want to say hi to all your fans. Hey, everybody, come out and see me. Come out and see me and say hi. All right, man. Talk to you later, Tommy.
All right, Tim. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Well, there you have it. Tim Cappello. Ain't he a cool dude? Yes, he is. And he's an amazing inspiration, and he is full of integrity and got great stories, and he is persevering. He is taking his career and running with it again. It's not over till it's over. He is a true inspiration of a guy. If you like this video, everyone, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Add me as a friend on Facebook. Join my Tommy Kovac comedian page on Facebook. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram and all that fun stuff. Well, that's all the time we have this week on Splat from the Past. Until next time, this is Tommy Throwback Kovac saying, there's no shame in living in the past because the present sucks. Later, dudes!